Merhaba, ben Gülfem Şantaerkaya.
Merhaba, ben Ebru Debba.
Dips and Friends YouTube kanalımıza tekrar hoş geldiniz. Bugünkü bölümümüz pamukla ilgili. Yani denimin aslında ana ham maddesi. Ve Paris'ten bize bağlanan bir konuğumuz var, Anne Oudard. Hello, this is Gülfem Şantaerkaya.
Hello, this is Ebru.
Welcome to our channel Dips and Friends. Today we have, title of the episode is cotton, which is the main raw material of denim, and it's really important to us. And we have Anne Oudard from Paris today, who is a denim and cotton consultant, and I'm sure you'll all love her because she always brings joy and she has this huge, warming smile, and it's always good to see Anne. And she doesn't only talk the talk, she also walks the walk. For me, that's how she is. She is driven, she is ambitious, but she does what she means. So it's really valuable to have Anne with us today.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And recently I was reading somewhere where you said couture seamlessly merges with denim. Meticulous craftsman is aligned with sustainability. And I just love this. You know, I got this quote from you. I truly love this. And I think it's kind of like integrating really the right elements into denim. And so we're very happy to have you here with us today. Would you kindly just introduce yourself to the audience, and then we'll dive into the questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for having me with you today. So my name is Anne Oudard. I'm from France and I'm a denim and cotton consultant. My background is in fashion. So I studied fashion design and I started and spent like all my career in denim. And a few years ago, I started getting really interested in cotton. First, because I was working around sustainability, and my questions like started to go like from how we make jeans more sustainable to like how we can also get more sustainable raw materials. And yeah, I just opened that door, and since then I've been really digging into cotton and trying to get back to the source of cotton.
Great, amazing. So what does natural mean to you in the context of fashion then?
I mean, when we say natural in fashion, I think we usually refer to natural fibers. Natural fibers, as opposed to synthetic fibers, are fibers that come from nature. In the case of cotton, it comes from a crop, from a plant, so just like linen or hemp. And there's almost no transformation between the plant and the fiber. And I think that's what's interesting about cotton, even more than for linen or hemp. There's a very light mechanical transformation with cotton. So you literally harvest it. And then when you have the ball of cotton, you just have to separate the seed from the fiber. This is what's called ginning. And we have big machines to do that. But this is the only transformation that you have, just separating the cotton from the seed, and then it's ready to be spun into yarn. So I think it's a very direct from nature to the factory fiber.
For me, it's always natural means like mimicking the earth. Mm-hmm. It's slow, like natural in fashion feels like that as well. It's slow, it's imperfect maybe sometimes. Like it's what Mother Earth does, right?
Yeah.
And what about you?
And I always consider it like a process, but like a natural process, like what nature actually does, how it expresses itself. And, you know, I feel very happy and blessed to be a part of an industry where we take, you know, the natural process and make it into products. And you explained it beautifully, Anne. Actually, it is an expression of nature itself, you know, what we wear.
Yeah. Can cotton still be cool in an era of performance fabrics like active wear and that kind of stuff as well?
I guess performance is defined by the function of the garment. So what do you need it for? I think you, like throughout your day, your life, you need garments for different purposes. So what we call performance activewear and all of that is serving a certain purpose, but I think cotton serves another one. I don't know if we're still in this performance trend. I think it slowed down a little bit. Unfortunately, I think we're more in a phase of very fast, ultra fast fashion, and we're more in a cheap. But I think, yes, cotton for me, it's still so relevant on everyday life dressing. I mostly wear cotton, and I don't think I wear anything so different from other people. Like I'm wearing a t-shirt, it's cotton. I'm wearing jeans, it's cotton. Like most of your underwear is cotton. So I think it's still, and it will definitely remain super relevant.
You said you had an interest 3-4 years ago in cotton, and you were starting to learn what it is, and maybe you were exploring around advantages, disadvantages, and all the sustainability facts and all that stuff. With all that information, the sea of information we have about cotton, what's one myth that you want to debunk?
There's one thing that I've heard many times and that I've come to realize was completely false, is when people say that we shouldn't keep growing cotton because we need space to grow food. That's a bit of a classic. Like cotton is using too much land. We need this land for other stuff. We need land for food. And when you start talking to farmers and you ask farmers this question, they look at you like, what are you saying? Are you crazy? Because most farmers, they don't just grow cotton. It's like the majority of farmers, they grow cotton and so many other things and a lot of food. And usually when, cotton season is only a few months a year. And outside of this season, the field is still in use for other stuff. And cotton might be just one part of the farmland. And next to it, there's going to be something else. Those farmers, they grow food for themselves and for the community. So that's local, that stays local. And then cotton is grown for cash. Cotton is a cash crop. So these people, for having a healthy, functioning business, they need food for eating and they need cotton for cash, for buying everything they need, for buying the clothes they wear, for paying medical bills, for sending kids to school, for also buying all the machineries that you need in agriculture. So cotton is necessary. If they don't grow cotton, they don't get cash. If they don't get cash, how can you live? So it's really a myth that it's either food or cotton. They go together. They're part of an economical system or of farmers' business. So I think it's really important to understand that.
Yeah, and I want to definitely add to this that there's another myth, which is quite important, that cotton is thirsty, because it pretty much depends. Yeah. It depends how you grow it, where you grow it. And we've learned over the years that there are, better methods to grow cotton where you don't need so much of water. It pretty much is dependent on which land you use to grow cotton and how you cultivate it. So that's another myth I would like to just mention.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And also water is a cycle. You don't consume it. I'm going to quote my friends who worked on the Transformers report around cotton myths. So there's a lot of them who worked on it, but Marcia Lanfranchi and Annie Wells and Simon Ferrigno, who are my teammates at Cotton Diaries, they've all worked on this report. And I think what they explain there is super important, because they explain you the cycle of water. Water is never consumed. It's used. And then the question to ask is, when you use this water, is there enough for everyone? What's the stress, the hydric stress? And then also the water that comes out of your field, how is it is it polluted or is it clear and can go back into the cycle? So I think we have to stop thinking of just cotton as because we have this idea of that cotton absorbs water, but it's a plant. Of course it needs water to grow. Then the question is there enough water? Is water managed properly? Is water polluted? So it's a very complex question that is very specific to each context.
Yeah, sure is. I think without that information and data, you cannot say it's a thirsty plant that is damaging the environment. So
Yeah, while you were mentioning about that, I think when you are thinking about cotton in terms of sustainability, you have to think about lots of these different aspects of the society and community and land and everything. So I'm sure you all watched it. There's this BBC documentary about Stacey Dooley, and she was there in the RLC. If you can see that image of RLC shrinking due to cotton farming, that makes you question, is it the right place or right method or right seed for that region? So it's not just having one thing, it's having all those systems together working in a really good, great harmony.
yeah. So Anne, do you have a memory of cotton, but not as the material itself, more like the feeling that it's brought on you?
I don't know. I guess cotton is so much it's really part of everybody's life. And I think you can have memories that trace back to probably when you were born. The bed sheets, the clothes, everything that you wear as a kid is mostly cotton. So I would, for me, if I try to think of a memory around cotton, I could go really far away, and as a feeling, as something that you put on your skin.
I mean, I grew up as a cotton farmer's daughter.
Oh, really?
Yes. I was in the field pretty often, and I think my memories go back to when I was 5 years old, and I had this ring that my grandmother gave to me, and I was spreading the seeds on the field, and there went my ring as well. And it was a vast field and we couldn't find it. And I was like, okay, cotton took up my ring, I had this first kind of interaction with the idea of cotton, and I was somewhat angry, and then I really came to love the whole process, and I was on the field quite often with my parents, I would say. Yeah, I mean, it's like the feeling that you have, there's this conversation you can have with the material. It has so many memories that you can kind of go back to. Yeah, the other question I want to ask you, if cotton had a voice, what would it whisper to denim every time they met? We're trying to bring life into cotton, not just as a material, but more like feelings. And, we just wanted to have your idea here as well.
That's a funny one. I don't know. I guess maybe cotton would say please untie me, because I used to be very fluffy and had a lot of space, and now I'm more squeezed and twisted.
I thought about this question myself as well, and I think it will say, I will be there when you fade away. It's kind of this more superiority.
I have another cotton personification. What do you think cotton dreams about while growing under the sun?
So maybe cotton is dreaming of times where, this is a bit of a sad one, of times when rain was coming at the right time and heat was not so hot. So maybe there's a bit of nostalgia in terms of climate change. I know it's a bit sad, but I really hear it a lot from farmers. Every time we talk about their challenges, whether it be in Turkey or in India, they always talk about how rain patterns have become completely erratic, and it might be pouring at some point and no more water afterwards, and water doesn't really come at the right time anymore. So I think maybe cotton is a bit nostalgic of that. But maybe on a good day, cotton can dream about all the love and care that farmers are putting into growing it. So I think that's a really important aspect too. There's a lot of hard work in growing cotton, but there's also a lot of love and care from farmers to cotton, I think.
You do visit cotton farms in different areas of the world, right?
Yeah,
you go
not
around.
everywhere, but I've seen a few. Yes, I've been to. Well, I go a lot to Turkey. That's where I mostly go. But I've been to India, and I've also visited cotton fields in Spain, for example.
Let's say cotton goes to therapy. What's its main issue?
I mean, cotton has quite a heavy history. So I think there's a lot to unpack. So throughout history, cotton has really been used for colonizing, conquering, enslaving people. It's not cotton itself that is responsible for that. It's what we have used it for, because cotton has value. Cotton has a lot of value. That's why, you've probably heard it like being called the white gold. Mm-hmm. And because it's got value, people have tried to make a lot of money out of it. With this went exploitation and just all the worst aspects of imperialism. So I think, yes, if cotton was going through therapy, it would have a lot of things to complain about, how it's been used for that without being able to consent to any of that. I don't think cotton was up for these terrible behaviors that we've had and we still have on how we grow it and what we do to be able to grow it.
Yeah, and I would like to quote actually two great books for the audience there that who can, if they want, they can follow those books. One is The Worn by Sophie Tenhauser. So it kind of like explains really well the whole colonialism through cotton. And the other one is the 1619 Project, which is really amazing. And cotton has been kind of like a cash capturing material back in the history.
Yeah.
I mean, if I may add another book we should do a book club. But there's also, I think for me, one of my favorite, most important book in cotton is The Empire of Cotton by Sven Becker. Oh, yeah. I think the title it's Empire of Cotton and Modern History of Capitalism or something like that, the subtitle. And I think this is when I realized that cotton was everywhere in the history of capitalism. And you could actually look at history through the lens of cotton. The world as we know it since, I would say, the 15th century, but also with a big acceleration during the industrialization in the 19th century. Cotton has been an accelerator of this, or has been used to accelerate all of that. So it's super important to learn about this and acknowledge this when you look at cotton. The history is really strong, but also so important to learn.
And, tying into that, what's the weirdest and the most emotional fact you've learned about cotton in your latest years, that you've been exploring this material in depth?
I don't know if it's the weirdest, but there's something I understand it, but there's something that I don't get about it and that I find a bit absurd about cotton. It's how we trade cotton, the fact that it's a commodity. Just to explain briefly, a commodity is a material that you sell for its characteristics, for its specifics, with no regards of like who grew it, how, where, and all of that. So imagine if you work in fashion. You design a garment, you get it made and everything. And then you cannot decide of the price. You cannot decide like on how you're going to sell it, and you cannot decide on the price that you're going to sell it for. So usually when you make a product, you take into account how much you spend to make it, like the raw materials or the resources or the time and all of that. And it gives you a price, and you have to factor in your markups and all of that. And then this is the price for the market. But cotton is not like that. Farmers cannot decide how much they sell their cotton for. It's decided by global markets. It's supply and demand. And that's when, you start growing cotton and you don't know for how much you're going to sell it. It's completely like unrelated to all the work and everything that you've invested in it. And I think that's something I'm still like, I know what a commodity is. I know that's how we trade gas, how we trade a lot of also what they call soft commodities, like could be coffee, could be wheat, could be, but for cotton, I don't know. I think for most of these things, I find it so weird. This is how it works.
Really nicely explained. Yeah. And for you, Gülfem?
The beginner's info, let's say, for our industry, but there was this documentary called True Cost. We all watched it, I think, a couple of times. But like the end consumers might not know, but it's on air, right? Like they can find it online. There was this part where it was showing the cotton farmers in India. and taking, using genetically modified seeds, then cotton fertilizers to grow that seeds, and then they were getting ill. It was the same country who was providing the seed, the fertilizer, and the medicine to cure the illnesses that is caused by all those chemicals. It's quite emotional for me, that part. How about you?
Yeah, I would definitely agree that how interconnected it's to colonial history, as well as, like, I would say, current, even like very integrated systems that has nothing to do with how the product is being actually used. The story of cotton is much bigger than simply is a raw material. I think that intrigues me every day, and there's so much to learn more about, the whole journey of cotton. And I think because it's so much common to everyday life, we should have kind of like a perspective of that story. I think it's kind of like a responsibility to know about what's going on, both the history of it, and it's complex. It's definitely complex, but we don't really get taught these kind of like everyday life connections at schools. So I think, I kind of feel responsible to pass on the information I get hold of about, I would say, cotton.
So what's that one story you would like to tell about cotton that has never been told, maybe?
I would want to tell how interconnected cotton is, historically, culturally, socially, because it has such a huge impact, and it's global. So there's this potential to actually speak the same language through cotton. And yeah, I would love to do that.
How about you, Anne? What story do you want to tell?
I really relate to what you were saying, Ever. It's I'm part of this collective called Cotton Diaries. And at Cotton Diaries, one of the key things that we do is we try to tell farmer stories. And for me, it's really important to reconnect, because I also have a step in fashion. Still, I work for fashion brands. And I noticed that, even fashion professionals, when they see cotton, they see a fiber. They don't see a plant. And some of them don't even consider it as a plant. They've never really made the connection. And when you start reconnecting all of these things together, and you realize that yes, farmers should be at the center of the sustainability conversations. We talk a lot about sustainability, but who among us has any experience in growing cotton? Many of us haven't even been to a field. Maybe in Turkey it's different because you have cotton growing in your own country. You have history. You might come from a family of farmers, but in France, for example, total disconnection with cotton and with cotton farmers. So I think for me, it's really important to meet with farmers and to listen to their stories, to understand what their challenges are, how they view things, what is sustainability for farmers? What does it mean? When you do that, you realize that maybe what they're going to tell you is not the easiest thing to market, to communicate around. It's going to challenge your communication strategies. It's gonna probably shift your perspectives on a lot of things. But I truly believe that they, because of their experience on the ground, they have the answers. And we're losing a lot of time in sustainability with all these bottom down requirements. So brands, giving their ideas on how cotton should be farmed and forcing this to farmers where maybe the reality is completely different to what we would have imagined or anticipated. So I think it's really crucial to go back to the ground and bring those voices up instead.
So, Anne, thank you so much for giving this perspective, because I think what you're saying, what I'm hearing, what we're hearing, you're saying is that cotton is not just a material, but it has so much behind just that material actually. So it's kind of like both fun and very interesting to learn about it. And yeah, thank you for like bringing your perspective here. And now we're going to go into kind of like our last part where we have a rapid fire, this and that.
So, this or that, Anne? Organic cotton or regenerative cotton?
Both together.
Rain-fed cotton or tech-grown fiber?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. Again, both depends on the context. So-
Okay, last one is a fun one. Cotton gin or cotton candy?
Oh, cotton candy. But I love gin. Or I prefer
And
money.
that's a good addition. And we have a last section where we have a true or false. So cotton and climate are deeply intertwined.
True.
Cotton knows more about climate change than most politicians.
Yes. Very true.
If cotton disappeared tomorrow, denim would spiral into an existential crisis.
True.
Yes, it would. So thank you very much, Anne, for bringing your insight, your enthusiasm, and your passion. We feel it across the screen here.
Thank you for joining us. It's always good to see you.
Thanks a lot
Thank
for having
you.
me.
Pamuk bizim için çok değerli. Onu daha iyi tanımanızı isteriz. Belki üzerine birkaç bölüm daha yapabiliriz.
Pamuğun hikayesi bitmez. Dips and Friends teşekkür ediyor. Bizi takip etmeyi unutmayın.